Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. If you are watching live, you can see Greg has his coffee. I have my coffee. Greg, what coffee do you have today?
Not nothing exciting. Simply coffee straight out of the coffee maker with some cream and some Truvia.
There you go. But you are drinking it in the March for Life mug, which
Isn't that nice?
there you go. It little says March for Life. And if you guys all want to stay tuned, we'll definitely be letting you guys know about our 2026 California March for Life pretty soon. So be watching out for that. But we have lots to share with you guys all today, from the AB 495, the kidnappers bill, the dream bill for a kidnapper and a predator. We're going to dive into some of those facts, kind of refute and prove incorrect some of the things that people are saying about AB 495. We're going to get into how you can opt your child out of all of this LGBTQ plus curriculum being forced down their throats in schools. And then we're going to get into SB 403, assisted suicide bill that is going on in California. So a lot to share with you guys all. But before we dive into that, I think this is the first official Coffee Culture in the Capital we've had since we've announced our speaker for our Orange County Gala, which is October 4th in Costa Mesa. And we are going to be having Bethany Hamilton, who you guys probably know as Soul Surfer. But Greg, are you excited about Bethany Hamilton?
I'm so excited. My kids, when they were little, probably maybe 8 or 9, we went to go see her speak at an event. She was going around the country, and so Soul Surfer is a movie that was made about her life and what happened to her when she was surfing, and a shark attack and how she overcame that. And so she's been an inspiration for kids for a while, and now she's standing up for women's sports, making sure they are for women and women only. And she's received, backlash because of that. And she's going to be talking about that and encouraging girls to stand up, parents to stand up for women-only sports.
Yeah, so we're excited to have her. Again, that will be Saturday, October 4th. You can visit californiafamily.org or cfcgala.com to get tickets for that, to get sponsorships, to get tables, but we'd love to see you guys all there. But with that, Greg, AB 495, that bill has been the talk of the town. There has been a lot being said about it. We've definitely discussed how it's a kidnapper and predator's dream bill. But if someone is listening and they're like, I've never even heard of AB 495, could you give a quick overview of the harms of what AB 495 is doing?
Well, really, if you want to understand this bill, it updates a form that we didn't know existed called the Caregiver Authorization Affidavit. It's a piece of paper like this you can print off the internet, and you can currently exist. It's been around for a couple decades, and unbeknownst to us, you can simply sign it, and you provide a couple pieces of information. And this is to gain the authority to make decisions for a child. That decisions that involve their education and decisions that involve their medical care. To decide to enroll a child, to get authorization to enroll a child in school, you fill out this form, you put the name of the minor, the minor's birth date, you give your name and your home address, and you say, hey, this child's living with me, and that gives you authority to put that child in a school, take them out of school, and also it authorizes school-related medical care, like if your school is doing immunizations or physicals for sports or something like that, that allows you to make those decisions. Now, the crazy thing is the current form doesn't require a parent to sign it. And what we've been finding out is that in certain circumstances, the schools and hospitals are not accepting this affidavit as the authority to do medical care or the authority to enroll a student or take a student out. And so the new form has now been updated, and it says here 3 different times that a parent's signature or a seal or signature from a court is not required. And I highlighted here in pink, and on the back it says the same thing in instructions to school officials and in health officials. So anybody can sign this thing and take your kid out of school. It seems crazy, but that's what it is. And we're finally, not finally, but we are getting pushback. We had the author of the bill actually put out a press release trying to refute some of the things that we've been saying. And it's kind of amazing. It's as though she doesn't read her own bill. And I'm going to read you something. And the author of this bill, her name is Celeste Rodriguez. And here's what she says. She says, under the bill, the caregiver authorization affidavit will now recognize trusted adults and extended family members, such as godparents, which parents select to care for their children in the event that they are unable to. Now, wait a second. I just showed you that on this form, it doesn't require the parents to select anybody, right? So how is this strengthening parental rights? It says it strengthens legal tools for families to make caregiver arrangements. This really seems to do the opposite. And I understand if there's a situation where parents are disappeared, maybe they got taken by ICE, who's going to take care of the kid? And so those parents who are here illegally have the right to decide what happens to their own children, should have a say who they stay with. And if it's a godparent, great, but they need to make that decision. And this affidavit says people can fill it out and the parent's signature isn't required. That is the point, right? So I don't understand how she can possibly say this lets parents select who cares for their child. So that is the problem we're having. And then I'm not sure if you've heard about this organization, but it's called Snope. Snope is like a famous, popular fact checker. It usually targets conservatives and debunks all the lies but they are all so unreliable. And so they have launched a whole, I don't know, it must be 8 pages to refute what we're saying. And so I wanted to refute what they're saying. Here's what sadly is happening. They refute what we're saying, not by going to the bill and looking at the language. They go to the author of the bill and they go to the sponsor of the bill and they say, hey, so-and-so is accusing this bill of doing such and such. What do you say about that? And they come back and they say, no, that's not the intent of the bill. The bill doesn't do that. And then Snopes thinks, oh, we've refuted what they've said. No, you didn't. You have to. What Snopes needs to do is read the bill themselves and then come to us and say, hey, why are you saying this? And we can point to the language in the bill. And then they should go to them, the supporters of the bill, and say, hey, I've read this part of the bill. I've read the affidavit. How can you say what you're saying? So one of the most key aspects that we are disputing is whether someone can simply use this affidavit, go to a school and get a child without parental consent. So, Sophia, I know you're going to read part of this. Why don't you read the very part that I will show you isn't true?
Yeah, so in this Snopes article, one of their main points is they say people could remove children from school without parents' consent. And they say Balmer Cartagena refuted claims that AB 495 would allow a person to remove a child from school without a parent's knowledge or consent. Generally, schools only release children from school to people listed as emergency contacts by the person who enrolled the child in a school. A caregiver's authorization affidavit does not allow someone to bypass this process and remove a child from school, she said. Snopes found several California school district policies that stated schools would only release students to people designated as emergency contacts. So, Greg, is that true or not?
Well, I know that there are some schools that will not take the affidavit as authority to remove a kid from school. But that is why this bill has been introduced. And that is why the new form says on there 3 different times that parent signature is not required, right? It even says on here to the school, a person who relies on this affidavit has no obligation to make any further inquiry or investigation. That the information on here is correct, right? And just to back it up, what we found, there is an organization that many school districts in California belong to. It's called the California School Board Association. And the School Board Association provides legal advice. They provide model policies based on new bills that are passed. And they put out a legal memo less than a year ago, last December. And it's legal guidance on immigration issues affecting California's school districts. So it's right here, okay? So I turned to this to see what kind of advice are they giving in these situations. And let me just read you what it says. It says, families should be notified that in the event that a student's parent or guardian is detained or deported by federal immigration authorities, meaning they're gone, and now what do we do with the kids? Administration release the student to a person designated in the student's emergency contact information. That's exactly what the Snopes article is saying. But it says if they have a caregiver authorization, that doesn't allow someone to take a kid out of school. But that's not what this says. It also says, or to any individuals who present a caregiver authorization affidavit on behalf of the student. So anyone who fills out this form, goes up to a school and says, I would like so-and-so child, the school district, according to the legal authority that's giving school districts here in California advice, it's okay to release the child to them. And so that is one of the main reasons they have this bill, is because what they're finding. And I went back and started listening to various testimony that was given for the bill. And one of the reasons they wanted to clarify what this affidavit does is because health providers and school districts are getting these things, and they say, we need the parents to sign off on this, or you need to, be listed on the emergency list for caregivers that the parents signed off on, and they're not on there. And so they want to make sure this form has the authority to remove a kid. And so to me, that completely contradicts what they're saying here.
Absolutely. And so that's why it's good to make sure you're checking out. We have our blog, our article at californiafamily.org, where you can learn more about SB 495. You can check out on our social media. We've posted plenty of things about SB 495 from different attorneys, different information. We have an hour-long interview with Nicole Pearson, attorney and founder of Facts, Law, Truth, Justice, where you can go see what she has to say about AB 495 and the harms of it. Her and Greg really walked through the details of that. You can visit our YouTube channel or our Facebook or X to watch that from last week. But for SB 495 or AB 495, we will be all joining together at the state capitol on Tuesday, August 19th to rally against it. Jonathan Keller, the president of California Family Council, will be there speaking at that event. But Greg, any final thoughts on 495?
Do we have a video from testimony? No, we had what was that?
Kristen Powers did testify. We could watch that.
All right, this video is video I found from testimony that was given in favor of the bill, and who you're going to hear is Kristen Powers, and she's one of the sponsors of the bill, and she explains why this bill is necessary. And so I want you to hear her testimony, and it really does confirm what I've been saying.
495. Our guardianship and children's court advocacy programs help eliminate barriers and provide free legal services to caregivers seeking legal guardianship in probate court and to individuals who are not entitled to court-appointed counsel in dependency court. Every day, we see how family separation disrupts children's lives, causing emotional trauma, instability, and barriers to education, healthcare, and long-term well-being. Although there are existing tools in law that give caregivers authority to make decisions for children during a parent's absence, many caregivers still face challenges when trying to use them. Just to give you an example from one of our clients, our attorneys recently assisted a caregiver who was struggling to obtain medical services for a young person in her care, despite having a caregiver authorization affidavit. The caregiver filled out the affidavit for her nephew, Gabriel, after her sister became unable to care for him. The medical services provider refused to accept the affidavit and instead requested the parent's authorization for proof of guardianship, delaying medical care for Gabriel. Our attorneys have intervened to ensure compliance and to confirm that Gabriel received the medical care he desperately needed. AB 495 helps ensure schools and medical services providers accept existing tools by standardizing recognition of caregiver authorization affidavits so they're honored consistently. This bill prevents unnecessary trauma for children, strengthens family stability, and ensures that schools and agencies are equipped to support families in times of crisis. Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much.
Now, it's important. What example did she give why this bill was necessary? She said she had an instance where someone had a caregiver authorization affidavit. It was an aunt, and she had a niece that she was trying to get services. But the healthcare provider would not accept the caregiver affidavit to approve the treatment. Why? Because the parent had not signed it. And so medical facilities are obligated to let parents make medical decisions for children. That's what parental rights is for. That's what custody is for. You establish custody for someone because they are the parent or they're the legal guardian. But for someone, she was hoping this form that currently exists, right? But the healthcare provider wasn't listening to it. Now, the crazy thing is that this form already exists, and it's dangerous as it is. And I have a letter here from Alliance Defending Freedom, one of the biggest Christian legal organizations in the world, and they wrote an opposition letter, and I want to read a little bit of it just to show you what they think about the current form that's being used. And talking about the form, they and the statute that allows it. Here's what it says: the statute gives these non-parents the title of caregiver, a legal status, one with no historical basis in law, that can be established by simply filling out an affidavit. Section 6650, which that's where this current affidavit is located in the law, makes no provision for verifying the affinity's identity or ensuring that the person filling it out indeed has a relationship with the child. Worst of all, no notice to or consent from the child's parents is required. That's the crazy part. So in conclusion, here's what ADF thinks about AB 495. It says, AB 495's provisions are designed to exclude parents and keep them in the dark while their rights to shepherd and ensure their child is being properly cared for are being violated. So we've been trying to convince folks this is as bad as we've said it is. We've got one of the biggest legal organizations in the world saying so. They've won like 12, 13 cases before the Supreme Court. They got like 4 cases before the Supreme Court coming up. They win 80% of all their cases, right? So they don't put out a letter just willy-nilly on things. It has authority. So that should give you confidence that what we are saying is not fear-mongering, right? And so you have to speak up. You have to call your senators, your assembly members. You have to show up on Tuesday. The more people show up, the bigger impact it has. So thanks so much.
And on that too, with the fear mongering, I just want to know, if you think about what's happening at the state capitol, what's happening in California, there's enough crazy and bad things happening. We don't need to make up things to fear monger things. We're going to be honest with you guys about what's happening, because with all the fights, with all the issues, with everything that's attacking our biblical values, our Christian values, our families, children, there's no point of wasting time on something where we're just trying to make up things to fearmonger. We're only going to push things that are really happening and stand up for what's really happening. And that's why we're standing against AB 495. But with that, some positive news, Greg. We had a great Supreme Court ruling recently that is opening the doors for parents to get some rights back and protection back in regards to their children. So what have we seen from the Supreme Court, and how is this going to protect children in schools?
Well, for a long time here in California, the education officials, legislators, our attorney general has said, once you put your kid into public schools, you generally have to put up with what we teach them. The only thing you can opt them out of are certain surveys. You can opt them out of sex ed classes that happen once in junior high, once in ninth grade. But if there's anything else that you believe is indoctrinating, anything else especially related to LGBT issues that violate your faith, that try and undo the beliefs that your children now believe as they go to school, especially on the issues of gender, that kind of curriculum where kids are now told and taught that they can pick their gender, that it's based on your feelings, and they could be any gender, an untold number of genders they could be, and trapped in the wrong body. And this is a terrible thing to tell kids, but parents have not been able to opt out of those type of lessons. I remember about 5 years ago, there was a kindergarten class where a teacher wanted to make a boy feel comfortable about transitioning to a girl. And the parent was all involved in this, and they brought a book called I Am Jazz to the classroom, and the parent asked the teacher to read it to the classroom of kindergartners. And it was a book about a 3-year-old who was trapped in the wrong body, a little boy who was really a girl. And how did the little boy know he's a girl? Because he liked girl things. And they were deciding to socially transition the kid. So this little kid in this class, the parents wanted this book to be read. So the book was read. The little boy went into the bathroom and came out dressed as a girl. It freaked out the parents because they were not told this was happening. It freaked out the kids. They had no idea that was even possible. You could change your sex. You could be trapped in the wrong body. Kids got scared that could happen to them. So parents simply asked for an opt-out. In the future, and this was in a charter school, and we had a big public hearing, and it all came down to whether the school was obligated to let parents opt out of these type of books in the future. And in the end, they decided no, you can't opt your kid out, because state law requires that classroom materials must be non-discriminatory. And that means you can't discriminate on LGBT issues, meaning you can't prevent your kid from hearing this kind of thing, even when they're 5 or 6. Well, that's now that same kind of thing was happening in Maryland, and the Supreme Court has decided no, that parents can't opt their kids out of lessons that they believe are undermining their ability to pass along their faith to their children. The parental rights, one of the biggest parental rights that we have is the right to train our own children in our own values. And if the school is undermining that, then parents have a right to opt their kids out of those lessons. So that includes all the LGBT stuff. And so there are various groups out there now putting out opt-out forms that you can print out and fill out and give to your school principal. And I'm just going to read one of them here. This is by Pacific Justice Institute. And here's what it says. Here's what you can say, well, what can I opt out of? Well, here's what it says. it has a little check mark. You check next to it, and it says, receiving instruction in subjects identified below, including related books and materials that substantially interferes with the religious development of my child or conflicts with our religious training and beliefs or moral convictions. And then it quotes the Supreme Court case, Mahmoud versus Taylor. So, and then it has a bunch of blank lines. So what you can do there is you can list books or materials that you think substantially interfere with the religious development of your child, and you can opt them out. So California forever has been saying, nope, you can't. That's no longer the case. And so if you fill this out and send it in and to your principal and they don't allow it, then PGI and other organizations will sue on your behalf. So that's great. So we have PJI has a form, Informed Parents of California also has a form, Advocates for Space for Freedom, and National Center for Law and Policy. And we put all those organization links in the show notes. So check out those websites, download those forms, get them in as your kids are now starting school. Make sure you are letting your schools know that you do not want your kid to be exposed to anything that's going to undermine their religious training or beliefs. So parents, you're no longer hostage to your public schools anymore. So make sure you are effectively using your rights, right? That are established in the Constitution. And the Supreme Court is now backing you up. So, but if you don't take advantage of those rights, they're going to stomp all over your rights. So it's time to stand up for them, or you're going to lose them.
This is a huge win for parents, so definitely go check out those forms, fill it out, and get it to your school, because this is a great way to protect your children. And another thing we're seeing from the state capitol, Greg, this is Senate Bill 403 by Senator Catherine Blakespear. And this whole idea of assisted suicide, it has been pushed at the Capitol for a while. We've seen some bills on this issue being pulled by the author, chose not to go forward with them. We've seen kinds of different things, but it's been pushed at the Capitol for a while. So what are we seeing with SB 403?
SB 403 is an attempt to, again, change our assisted suicide law that was passed back in 2015. And this allows those people that doctors are they're making a determination, they have to estimate that someone is terminally ill and they're going to die within 6 months. And those people now have the right to get drugs from their doctors that will end their life. So it's all under the guise that the compassionate thing to do for the suffering is to enable them to kill themselves. Now, folks, this is a huge moral question that needs to be dealt with, talked about more in churches than it is. Does God give us an exemption from his moral law against murder? Is there an exemption if the person you are killing wants to die? Is there an exemption if the person you are killing is suffering and you think this is going to eliminate suffering? Now, the Bible is clear. Mercy killing is immoral. We are not allowed to murder the suffering as some kind of compassion, right? I mean, our enemy of our souls is out to destroy us, to kill us, right? He will make us suffer, to make us despair and kill ourselves. So the Christian moral values that Jesus taught is that Jesus comes along and suffers with us, that seeks to alleviate our suffering and uses our suffering for our good, right? This is the exact opposite. This is trying to alleviate suffering of someone by killing them. And once you cross that line, and as California has, once you say, okay, it's all right to kill some people who are suffering to a certain degree. And this is what happens once you pass that it's like you jump over the moral line. Now everyone wants to be that person who deserves relief from suffering, and they're saying, hey, I want that option too. So, and this is what happened in other countries. They want, if I had got dementia, well, I want to be able to use a suicide drug. If I am suffering emotionally, if I had some deformity that I don't like that's making me depressed, I deserve it, and I deserve those drugs too. And so that's what we see happening. What this particular bill is doing, it's simply eliminating the expiration date that was already built into the bill. When the bill was first passed, it had a sunset date, meaning it was going to end, and we would look at what happened and see the results of this bill. That's what they're removing. But the author of the bill, at the beginning of the year, she had plans to do much more. What she wanted to do was to make these same drugs available for anyone who had dementia or Alzheimer's, which means those folks wouldn't even know they're choosing to kill themselves. It would be, so, and this is what happens. I think even in Canada now, it's depression that allows you to kill yourself. You can get the drugs. And so this is something we need to be talking about and opposing and standing up against. And so I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. The bill is already passed through most of the committee hearings. It's now in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. It will be heard this next week, but it's marching towards, getting approved. So just want you to be aware of that. Let's be talking about that. Pastors, if you're watching, please bring this up. Teach your congregation about suffering and suicide and what the Lord Jesus teaches us about that.
Absolutely. And so if you want to learn more about anything we talked about on the podcast today, if you go to californiafamily.org, you can click articles. You can read in depth about these topics. Make sure to share with your friends and family so they know what's happening in California. And with that, we will see you guys all next time, and also at the state capitol on August 19th for AB 495.